Here's the headline. Most Americans favor restrictions on false information. Should the U.S. government, not private enterprise, take steps to restrict false information online, even if it limits freedom of information? 2018, 39%, 2021, 48%, 2023, 55%. The government should restrict free speech if they say it's false information on the internet. The United States of America, the freest country in the history of the world. Now, one other little piece of data. Among Democrats and those who lean Democrat, 70%. Among Republicans, 39%. That the government should take steps to restrict false information online, even if it limits freedom of information. This is scary. I don't get scared easily. The most important freedom in the world is freedom of speech. The most important freedom there is, because without it, every other freedom dies. If people cannot say what they think, then, among other things, you have been rendered a robot. Your dignity is shattered. You become a cog. It is truly scary. That is the freedom that matters. There are other freedoms that matter, but that is the most important freedom. That is why it is the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, that the government shall not abridge the rights of people to speech. It doesn't say, unless it's not accurate, in which case the government can suppress it. You have to understand that every tyrannical government, the most vicious governments in history, have used the line, oh, that's false information or misinformation, in order to shut down all dissent and opposition. That is all that this is about. That half of Americans and the vast majority of Democrats do not understand that is proof that the last generations of Americans did not teach their children what free speech is about, what freedom is about, which I know is the case. Parents did not teach this. Ronald Reagan, President of the United States in the 1980s, said, "We are always one generation away from losing freedom." People thought it was a sweet line. He was entirely accurate. During the lockdowns, those of us who said the lockdowns were an awful idea were accused of misinformation. Those who said children should not get vaccinated were accused of misinformation. Those who said children should go to school and not be locked out of school were charged with misinformation. That's the charge that every tyrant gives. Putin in Russia says all those who oppose his regime and are reporting on the war in a negative way, the war in Ukraine, they are engaged in misinformation or disinformation. That we have a party in the United States, most of whose members actually think the way communists thought, is very scary. That's what I mean. It's just scary. Who are you to tell me what is misinformation? You can tell me, but who are you to stop me from speaking? It's called misinformation now if you say that there are only two sexes or only two genders, as the left puts it. That's called misinformation. I dare say misinformation is to say there are more than two sexes or more than two genders. That's misinformation. But I would never suppress your right to say it. You think there are 52 genders like Facebook does. Okay, you're entitled to your distorted view of humanity. If you think it's okay for men to compete against women in women's sports if they say they're women, that's misinformation. That's disinformation. That's a distorted sense of what is right and wrong, but you should be allowed to say it. That's the way it works. Freedom of speech is not freedom for speech I like. It's freedom for speech I don't like. That's the whole point of free speech.